A very good afternoon to one and all. Myself, Sulokshan Zado, first year PhD research scholar. I welcome you all to this auspicious event of the Foundation Day of a beloved university. Foundation Day is a chance to come together and celebrate our proud history with the community of students, staff, alumni, parents, and supporters. We, parents and supporters, rejoice that we are blessed with alluring surrounding and world-class facilities. We all know knowledge is power, and I will say knowledge shared is power multiplied because being a part of this progressive organization, I feel that this organization holds the onus of delivering premier command and technically competent students consistently. On this prosperous day, I would like to welcome Vice Chancellor of DY Patil International University, Akurdi, Pune, Professor Prabhat Ranjan. Professor Prabhat Ranjan received his early education from Nitarat School near Ranchi, IIT Kharagpur, and Delhi University. He received his PhD from University of California, Berkeley, where he carried out research on nuclear fusion at Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory during 1983 to 86. He immediately returned to India after this and carried out research in nuclear fusion area of Saha Institute of Nuclear Physics, Calcutta, and Institute of Plasma Research, IPR, Gandhinagar. He played a major role in India's nuclear fusion program and was the project leader of the largest operational Indian fusion reactor, ADITYA, at Institute for Plasma Research from 1996 to 2002. Later, he became an academician by being a professor at Dhirubhai Ambani Institute of Information and Communication Technology, Gandhinagar, from 2002 to 2013. From 2013 to 2018, he was heading the India's technology think tank TIFAC in Delhi. TIFAC is an autonomous body under Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. Since March 2018, he has been guiding light of DYPIU as a founding vice chancellor of our university. He has received National Science Talent Search Award, IBM Faculty Innovation Grant, HP Innovate 2019 Award, Bihar Gaurav Samman 2012, and NCPEDP Emphasis Universal Design Award 2012. I request him to please enlighten us with his eminent words. Over to you, sir.
Can we bring Chief Guest also into the show? Thanks, Paul, for joining us. I would briefly give a progress report of my university over the last 1 year. So let me try to share the screen. Thank you. Let me go to the full screen mode. So thank you all the viewers, students, colleagues, faculty members, parents, all of you to this third Foundation Day ceremony. Exactly 1 year ago, COVID-19 strikes. We were planning to celebrate our second Foundation Day on 14th March 2020. We had COVID knocking at our doors. Just the night before, we got the instruction from government that we have to stop all educational institutes immediately. So last year, exactly this Foundation Day, we could not celebrate. We had to cancel late night. And in fact, later part of March, the complete lockdown was imposed all over the country. All of us were suddenly trying to meet our basic necessity of life became very difficult. The whole teaching, learning process, assessment, everything became disrupted. Faculty and staff tried very hard to continue teaching. Attendance from the students were very poor. It was a very difficult time exactly 1 year ago. Hopelessness prevailed all over. Slowly, towards the end of May 2020, there was some relaxation movements. Systems started to learn to live with the new reality. The supply chain, which has completely disrupted, started to get restored. Campus was partially open. I started to visit, and some of the faculty members started to visit periodically campus alternate days. Still, there are a lot of uncertainties, whether admissions will take place, whether entrance examinations will take place, how the teaching is going to happen. There were concerns about health and safety of each of us. Around that time, there was some faint light of hope. We had a tie-up with Coursera, which allowed us that all the students could learn any course and get certificate, unlimited certificate across the disciplines. Admissions started to happen, though it was very slow and very prolonged. we started to organize online classes for students, existing students from first week of August 2020. And we found that the student attendance was extremely high. So compared to March and April, here it was almost full attendance. So students have also learned that it is not all that bad. And we started to have classes that were being fully attended by students. People had also organized themselves wherever they were to have proper internet connections, laptops, mobile phones working. Just to give an example, Coursera utilization saw very high utilization. And interestingly, recently I met Mr. Raghav Gupta, who is the Indian head of Coursera. He happens to our campus alumni as well. I just wanted to illustrate a few students. Mamta Chaudhary from 2018 batch of BBA. She enrolled in 202 courses and completed 132 of them. Kudos to her for doing this momentous 132 courses during this period. Bhavesh from BCom of 2019 batch enrolled in 112 and roughly half of them 53 courses you could complete. Akshada from BTech Computer Science Engineering of 2019 batch enrolled in 43 courses, completed all 43. Akash from BCA enrolled in 141 and completed 38 courses. So you can see the number of courses the students in a few months' time, they spent all their time, got this facility, and that actually was very helpful to students. And you can see the numbers were very large. Students enrolled, multiplied by the courses, they were enrolled in more than 10,000, learning hours more than 25,000, lessons taken more than 47,000, and a very high course rating. This was very, very helpful in the periods of May, June, July, August period, and so on. In the meantime, the DYPIU was becoming a trendsetter. In 2019, when we started a computer science engineering program, it was a multi-track specialized system which actually set the trend for the whole country actually. All India Council of Technical Education, which controls the technology education across the country, sent us an appreciation letter sometime in 2019. Later on, a committee was formed by them to revamp the computer science engineering curriculum, of which I was a member. And this actually led to, in 2020, a number of courses that were approved by AICTE were influenced by what we had done. So left side, you see the specialization tracks we had done, and right side, the courses that were started, new courses that were started by AICTE, which was then followed across all over the country, including in our own campus. Not only that, actually, based on our concept of Fab Lab, and of course, there are similar concepts elsewhere also, AICTE decided to set up IDEA Labs across the country, and there was a national steering committee set up for this purpose, of which I'm a chairman. In fact, we have finalized, we have gone through a number of presentations by different colleges. We plan to set up about 100 IDEA Lab in the next few months' time, and then another 100 in the next round. So I'm chairman of that committee, and actually I'll be visiting Delhi on 19th and 20th March, and then next week to actually carry forward this task. More so, even Savitri Phule by Pune University. Pune University is the university in which our city is. Actually started to also do similar things. They started to follow some of the things we have done, and just in January they announced that you can see this artificial intelligence, machine learning, cybersecurity, data science, exactly on the same pattern. The first 2 years are going to be common. Last 2 years are where you can do the specialization, which they're called honors or minors program. Exactly on the same line that we have done. But there's one more concept that we have brought in that is called lab in the bag concept, where actually students can work with real hardware and actually carry a whole electronics lab in their bag. Right now, this concept has not been followed, but I'm hoping that this will also be followed across the country very soon. In 2020, we started 2 programs in similar lines like we did for computer science engineering. One is BTech Bioengineering, which has 4 specializations: biochemical engineering, biomedical engineering, cell and tissue engineering, and food biotechnology, and MBA digital business with fintech, marketing analytics, and supply chain management. And I'm happy to share with you that kind of flexibility we brought in the BTech Bioengineering program, where we allowed the students who did not have maths to do a bridge course in mathematics and take this course, actually has been now implemented by AICTE across the country. Not only this, actually, they have even made it much more flexible. In fact, right now, there's a lot of debate going across the country and in that flexibility, whether we should have that kind of flexibility or not. So there's a debate going on. But this we had done last year, and I'm happy that AICTE adopted this in this year. In terms of infrastructure, we have added about 120,000 square feet for university purposes, and visitors tell us that is of international quality. I personally visit every day, so it's difficult for me to tell the difference. But when people come for the first time, they see it, they're very enthused. Every year for next 3 years, we'll be adding more space. We'll be adding 4 more floors. So we will nearly triple the space that we have. Now our student strength will also go to more than 4,000 students. You can see some glimpse of the inside of the building. I'm not showing a lot of photographs, just 1 or 2, because the time is short. Another view. Around October, we started to see that international investors from Silicon Valley started to notice our university. They had been in touch with us earlier also, but during the COVID period, suddenly every communication stopped. Around October, we received a request to actually start a nuclear fusion project from the university under my mentorship. Nuclear fusion is one of the major challenges that we have solved in this century of the 21st century, which is promises to provide clean energy forever to the humankind. I have worked in that area, but for last more than 10 years, I was not actively working in this. Of course, I was keeping in touch. So suddenly we were brought back into nuclear fusion. And this is something that no institution across the country, except one national lab, Institute of Plasma Research in Gandhinagar, is doing. I was there also for a long time. So we have called this project Sanlayan. Sanlayan in Sanskrit means fusion. Nuclear fusion means Tapiya Sanlayan. This is the first private initiative of its kind in India. No university, whether government or private, is doing this. No industry. This is the first time from our university we initiated this. And our goal is to develop nuclear fusion technology in India at 115 to 120 the cost needed for similar development in Western countries. And we hope that through this we'll be able to provide clean long-term energy solution. We are also working in medical isotope, which we expect that we'll be able to do it in shorter term. And also a space propulsion for deep space exploration. These are the 3 goals we have. And there are some more that are getting added up as more and more international investors are eyeing us, our activity. You can see some of the scientists and engineers have joined this project, and more are joining. We're all working from the university campus right now, but actual experimental facility will have to be done outside the university. We need additional space, larger space, and more power and so on. Not possible to do within university, but all the design planning will be done from the university. In parallel, actually, we were looking at trying to solve chronic health problems, which I've called Project Sususa, which combines modern medical science with ancient traditional knowledge to solve chronic health problems. This also has been sponsored by Silicon Valley investors. And here, the company employees have joined, as well as university faculties and the students are going to work together. We are setting up the lab right now. That work is going on. We also have a group of medical and non-medical people interested in integrated healthcare from India and outside participating in this. There are 300 people. I personally trained a number of first set of volunteers, then they will train next set of volunteers, and this work is going to spread. And as we develop some of the technology that we are working on, we'll use all of that to actually set a chain of health resorts across the country and maybe outside country to solve chronic health problems. We also received about 3 million rupees project from Government of India to help with country security. We're also in the process of starting augmented reality, virtual reality, and holography projects. We're expecting the equipments to come in about a month's time. Those projects were started. We already had procured certain equipments, and many more projects are also in pipeline through our faculty members and students. I'm not giving details of publication placements, but a number of research papers have started to be published, including in prestigious journals such as Nature. Students have been doing well, both in terms of achieving various awards they have been getting, plus also many of them have been placed in the prestigious company in these difficult times. So overall, suddenly from darkness, we have started to see light. In Sanskrit, it says, Tamso ma jyotirgamya, from darkness lead me to light. So from COVID era, our university has emerged very bright. We are trying to capture sun, bring it to earth. So I will stop at this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I am sure your words have inspired each one of us to flourish and excel with this institute. Now I would like to introduce the most awaited personality, our guest of honor, Professor Pavel Kabat. Pavel Kabat was the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of International Institute of Applied System Analysis, Austria, from February 2012 to August 2018. September 2018 marks his appointment as a Chief Scientist and Research Director at the World Meteorological Organization. Previously, Professor Kabat was a full professor of Earth System Science at Wageningen University in Netherlands and founding chair and director of Royal Dutch Academy of Science and Arts Institute for Integrated Research on Wadden Sea region. He is also a member of Leadership Council for UN Sustainable Development Solution Network and was a co-founder of the high-level AICTE Luxembourg group. The latter brings a global leader from academy, government, business, and civil society together to support and advocate for sustainable transition and sustainable development. Trained as mathematician and hydrologist, Professor Kabat almost 30 years of research career and expertise in Earth system science and global change with a specific focus on land-atmosphere interaction, climate hydrology, the water cycle, and the water source. He is an author and co-author of over 300 referred publications, including 9 books, a member of 3 international editorial boards, and co-editor for numerous special issues of peer-reviewed international journals. He has contributed to lead author and review editor to assessment report of Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which was co-recipient of Nobel Peace Prize in 2007. Other academic and societal awards and distinctions received by Professor Kabat include Zayed International Prize for Environment, which was awarded to all the experts who work on millennium ecosystem assessment in 2005. Several honorary degree professorships and memberships and distinguished fellowships internationally. Professor Kabat was awarded 2018 IASA Honorary Scholar for his leadership, outstanding contribution and service to Institute by Governing Council. Also, Professor Pavel Kabat has accepted the offer of Board of Trustees to succeed Professor Warwick as Secretary General of the International Human Frontier Science Program Organization, also an HFSPO. HFSPO is a program based in Strasbourg, France that funds basic research in life science. It promotes international collaboration in basic research focused on Euclidean of the sophisticated and complex mechanism of living organisms. It aims to foster communication between scientists publishing high-quality innovative research at the frontier of life science. HFSP is supported by 13 countries and European Union. Nobuta Hirakawa has been a president and chair of Board of Trustees since 2012. Now I would like to request Professor Kabat to please speak 3 words on this occasion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Paul, for joining this event. Thanks for a short notice. We have been interacting since 2013, and we developed a good chemistry between us. And back to be hopefully we'll be working together. All over to you. Thank you. Unmute, please. Mic is muted. Yeah.
I need to unmute my.
Yeah.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, it is okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. So let me start with extending my warmest greetings from Geneva, Switzerland, where I am now sitting. Of course, it's a home office like for everybody of you. And I would like to start with congratulating to all of you with this amazing success. I have been following the university since it started because, as mentioned, I was privileged to collaborate with Professor Anjan for many years. And it's simply amazing to see how far you've got, basically on everything we have been doing in only 3 years. So my sincere congratulations to that, to students, to the staff, to the Vice Chancellor. And of course, I do hope very much that our collaboration will extend again in the future. So my today's contribution will be about science and science without borders. I think it's clear that the world as we have it now has become very complex, very interdependent, very interconnected. This is just a scheme which you don't need to study, but it just shows how complex, for example, a global food system currently is, meaning that anything which is happening on a regional scale, local scale, is inevitably connected to the other scales and global decision, for example, making then. It's also clear that the risks and consequences of these global teleconnectivities became more systemic and became more interconnected. And of course, there is no better example of interconnected risk than the exceptional year 2020, which already was mentioned by Vice Chancellor Prabhat Ranjan. It was exceptional by many, of course, measures. It was a year of COVID, as you know, and I mean, we actually still having in 2021, year of COVID. It was a year of home office to all of us. It was a year of uncertainties and even darkness, as already introduced by Prabhat. And of course, there is a light at the end of the tunnel now. It was a year of the big decisions, but it was also a year of science which came in an amazing way. It, of course, was reflecting on the international global character of the whole issue of the problem. The OECD calculated that just between February or March and summer 2020, close to 7.5 billion euro, about $7 billion was mobilized for additional research in the area of COVID and Corona and development of the vaccines, for example. Out of it, 2 billion were committed in a very quick way to the international research. We have seen an enormous increase in scientific collaboration globally. This is a graph which is coming from Nature in December 2020. And amazingly, until December 2020, there were already about 200,000 of additional articles published addressing the issue of COVID and Corona and everything around it. Of course, it led to the huge increase of the internationality of the authorship list. And last but not least, just within 9 months since the problem really started to be recognized, there were a number of novel vaccines developed, and right now we are in the middle of vaccination globally. I mean, this is really an exceptional. And question is this unique, exceptional? Is this once in a time where the science and research and education altogether perform that well? And I will try to answer that question, but to start with, I will also sort of put a sub-question to that. How we can make sure that science, as we know it now, all the fantastic, innovative ideas which around the world are popping up every minute, including what you have been doing over 3 years, again, amazing. How can we make sure that this will keep flourishing and be ready, so to speak, also next time? And other times which will come, because there will be many times, as we know already, because of the complexity of the system globally, where we need science to step in as quick as it did just last year. In my proposition, to be able to ascertain that for the future, we need to recognize, the borders and the barriers which have become persistent to our current science education systems. And I think you will recognize those very much. First, I will be speaking to the disciplinarity, focus on particular discipline versus inter, trans, and cross-disciplinarity. How can we put together an interconnection between different elements of our knowledge into what I would call system science, holistic approaches? Furthermore, I will come back to an idea of a notion of blue skies, high risk research, high gain. I mean, driven by curiosity, research, and science has globally become a problem for funding. We don't see as much as needed resources from the governmental funding going to this high gain, high risk approaches. I mean, not every research, of course, needs to be programmed and needs to have an upfront societal objective. And I will show how this could be secured in terms of long-term support. Science, and again, it was shown during the last year and 1.5, is the best bridge builder across divides, across political, geopolitical borders. I think we need to see a revival of this international science collaboration as a bridge, sometimes called as science diplomacy and science across borders. We are facing very fragmented resources and funding across the world going to science. And I think there is a call which is coming from all the corners of the world connected to COVID, that we need more structured long-term infrastructure funding and a long-term vision when it comes to funding. We are also caught into what I would call publication rat race. I mean, I'm also, of course, one of the professors who had created the system, so it's also a mea culpa statement, but I think we need to rethink the way how we establish the academic credits and what kind of role the publication is playing there. And last but not least, generational divide. I mean, I'm hopefully speaking to many students at the university, and of course, the biggest idea, biggest innovation should be supported mainly there where the new generation is coming in action. So this is a number of what I would call borders and barriers, which are now sort of implicitly sitting and encroaching our science and education systems. And I believe that we really need to talk about the science without those borders and barriers in the future to be able to survive and to flourish then. I would like to illustrate it in a simple cartoon. You probably now wonder, what is this I'm showing you? It's a very bad print of the book. It's really bad, so you cannot read any single word. And probably when you would see such a book in the shop, you will not buy because you cannot read it, unless you would say you would know there is something very special in this book, so you will buy it and then bring it to a graphologist or someone who can sort of recover some of the words, and then after some time you will get back some clearly printed words. You can read with me. There is summer, there is winds, there is air, there is shade. And if I would be with you in the lecture room, I would be asking a question: what do you think this book is about? And probably many of you would say that must be something about the climate or maybe meteorology, because there are winds. There is well, it is actually one of the most beautiful Shakespeare tales. I'm putting it here just to illustrate what I mean by boardlessness and system thinking. I mean, we have been all brought up in these beautifully printed words: mathematics, physics, biology, political science, what have you, right? And we have put a little attention to connections, to cutting the borders across those disciplines, those words. That's on the science. The governance of our governments is also very much siloed. It's sitting in the beautifully printed words called Ministry of Science, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Water, Ministry of Infrastructure. Again, we have invested very, very little in thinking about how to connect this into a system. So the story of borderless science, system science, to me is a story where we learn the beauty of connecting these words into a tale of the innovative, scientifically based, sustainable future. Now, at this point, let me use the opportunity to introduce, with a big privilege, I feel, two what I call Science Without Borders international institutions, which have been operating according to those science borderlessness measures and actually helping to change the world. Already mentioned the International Institute for Applied System Analysis, IASA, where I was privileged to lead between 2012 and 2018, together with the current Vice Chancellor of the University, Prabhat Ranjan, who was at the time member of the IASA Council on behalf of India, which is a member of IASA. And as already mentioned, I will be joining very soon as a Secretary General of yet another boundary edge, so to speak, international institution, which is called Human Frontier Science Program. I will briefly tell you a little bit about those two. First, about IASA. IASA goes back to 1972. It's a child of science diplomacy. It's a child of a opening up dialogue between what used to be formal Eastern Europe, Eastern world, led by Soviet Union, and the formal West, led by United States. You see here a very important meeting of the President Lyndon Johnson of the United States and Prime Minister Kosygin from Soviet Union. And they agreed to establish the institute, which was the first collaborative effort ever between those two worlds, two political worlds. And they used these words to put together institute. I will read it for you because it's beautiful. It's saying what we want to say. Convinced that science and technology, if wisely directed, can benefit all mankind. Believing that international cooperation between nation institutions promotes cooperation between nations and so the economic and social progress of peoples. hereby resolve to establish IASA. Now, that's what happened in 1972. The Institute is operating along the lines which do frame the system: borderless science, integrated, interdisciplinary, international, independent from the political discourse, solution-oriented, etc. We call it systems analysis. Now, it pays off. It has paid off in many ways, including attracting the best scientists of the world. There are a number of those who received Nobel Prizes, who worked at IASA, who worked with IASA associates, IASA professors. You see here, some of them already passed away, unfortunately, including, for example, Professor Cruz and Professor Molina, who started with a very fundamental science in the atmospheric chemistry, and who went all the way up to the very important applications, which helped us to design Montreal Protocol and actually mitigate the ozone hole problem. Now, the other program which I'm using in this presentation, and I will be very privileged to join as Secretary General, is Human Frontier Science Program. Again, it started with building bridges by the politics. 1987, the G7 countries met in Venice, Italy, and based on the proposal of the former Prime Minister of Japan, Nakasone, the Human Frontier Science Program was proposed to be put together and funded. You see here some historical pictures showing, for example, President Reagan, Prime Minister Thatcher, Prime Minister Nakasone, President Mitterrand, Chancellor Kohl, and others. The program itself has been finally established in 1989. It is a program which has a number of, again, characteristics which do define the borderless science. It's a international collaboration in the frontier life science research. It is based on the competition, on the best ideas you can get. It's interdisciplinary, it's innovative, it's international, and it's built on scientific excellence. I am very pleased and very happy that among the nations which are member of the program is also India, with a large community in the country itself, and international collaboration. Again, it had paid off already. You see the numbers here. There's a global community of scientists across the world working together, almost 7,500. But between 1989 and 2020, 28 Nobel Prizes were given to those who went through the program, who collaborate, who are alumni, or who still are part of the program. I think it's an amazing attractiveness of the approach which was shown. So I am going to use some examples based on the research of those two institutions, but also my own, in which I will illustrate the big benefits of the Science Without Borders. I will first lead you to an example which was done at IASA with contribution of many colleagues, which is actually tackling the issue which you know very well, combination between the energy, air pollution, climate and health. And of course, in Indian condition, this is a very big issue. I have also yet another example which shows yet another transdisciplinarity, actually combining the classical understanding of the demography and population dynamics with education. And again, we talked to university. I thought that educational dimension would be very important to bring in, and actually a good illustration. And last, I will show some examples where the fundamental of sciences actually sort of proved to be an engine of innovation in a very quick way, leading to the highly important societal economic applications. So first to the energy challenge and climate and air pollution. So I went back to one of my visits to India during my IASA times, where of course we wanted to look into the way how different research, different science, which IASA was doing together with many Indian colleagues, links to the national goals. This is a goal which was articulated by the former government, but is still, I guess, very much active about the air quality. And air quality, of course, in India has been an issue and is still an issue there. So we have been working together with many institutions in India. We have developed a special version of a mathematical, physical, chemical model called GAINS Asia, and applied this model in different ways in the Indian context, showing the measures which in the end, the next 20 years, could lead to increase of life expectancy by almost 3 years, avoid about 2.5 million premature deaths, and would pay themselves by improving health quality as a whole. So this is just a preamble to what I'm going to say about the connectivity. Of course, this is an approach which is looking into the air pollution itself. So it's a sector, air pollution, atmospheric chemistry. Now, at the same time, we looked into the, we'll call it core benefits of entering the issue of things like how can we connect the measures to reduce the air pollution to the other measures which are very much needed, which is the measures to mitigate the emission of carbon dioxide. We have looked into the way how the major pollutants, for example, like black carbon and methane, do contribute when they are reduced to the target of mitigating greenhouse gases. And it's a lot of contribution. It can be actually 0.5 degree less warming resulting from reducing the pollutants like methane and black carbon in the atmosphere, which is a big contribution to the overall mitigation target. So we have identified in this system thinking transdisciplinary about 16 measures which are win-win in the air quality context, but also in the near climate change context. The best thing is here, which is showing how would this all pay back economically. What I mean, put together the health experts, energy security experts, scientists, air pollution, atmospheric chemistry, and climate change. Now, here you see the final economic outcome of that exercise. On the vertical axis, there is a cost, which is a percentage of the global GDP, currently about 1 trillion of the US dollars. And here you see the cost of 3 sectoral targets. Energy security, if you do only energy security, it will need like 0.2% of the global GDP invested annually for the next 30 years. For the air pollution health to go back to the WHO standards, about 0.6% of global GDP. For the climate change, almost 1%. If you would put all this together, which means investing in the science communities, education, model development, and applications, and eventually measures to actually improve, when you put them together, it's about 1.6, about 2% of global GDP altogether annually, right? 200 billion about a year. If you do this in a borderless system way, this is all 3 objectives together. So you see, if you put this 1.2 final number, about 0.8% of GDP annually can be saved to all of us if we start to think in systems, core benefits, win-win, both in the scientific, educational, and the application approach. I think this is a very convincing example of a benefit of system, borderless, transdisciplinary science, if you like. Next example comes from a science of the demography, in this case India. At the ASA, we have done this for every single country. So this is a way how we do it. So you see here a typical pyramid showing the population in a country. So you see age, and of course males on the left side, females on the right hand side, and there is the age category. Of course, the largest based on the newborns people, and then the elderly people. What is here interesting in this particular study that we have divided the population pyramid based on the attained level of education. So you see here that the dark red, no education at all, the orange, incompleted primary, yellow primary, light blue lower secondary, upper secondary until post-secondary university, basically. So in 2010, this was the Indian footprint, so to speak. 1.2 billion people, males, females. So you see there is a picture which is showing from this, showing that there is on the female side of it, large part of non-education at all. Now we have done different scenarios in which we put together a different attainment of the education levels higher. So, for example, this is a projection for 2030, where a lot of focus would go to the education in India, investment, but also in the societal context. Then 1.5 billion people in this particular case. You see here that there is actually much larger percentage of both dark blue and light blue on both sides of the female and male. This is 2060 of the same scenario. Interesting here is that we started with 1.2 billion in this scenario in this 2010, 1.5 billion in 2030, and 1.5 billion in 2060, all based into the education of both men and women in this particular case. Now, as the opposite scenario where the education will not be a priority sector, innovation education, and where the education investment would stall, you see 1.6 billion people projected in 2030 and more than 2 billion projected in 2060. So, summarizing here, the Indian projection of the population as related to the education attainment are very, very different based on an assumption which kind of proactive policies will be there in investing into the education. And education in this particular case, mainly of female population. I think this is yet another example where unexpected combination of disciplines comes into play. The demography in the classical sense, and education, which is of course social, economic, political part of the system. Then. Let me now go back to yet another example of a power of borderless science. This is coming back to fundamental research. This is from HPSP, which I'm going to leave very soon, showing the fundamental research as the engine of innovation. And there are many examples. I'm just giving you two or three where this is happening actually on very fast scale. And again, the COVID year and a half has shown how much the fundamental science, fundamental discoveries actually were there, are very important in getting to the very important, for example, vaccine development. So this is an example where the big things grew really from a very fundamental research, showing a team which was funded and supported by the program across the continent in 1993. The fundamental grant was to understand basic biology, basically of development of a brain in the fruit flies. During that process, they discovered a gene called SHE gene, Smoothen gene, if you like, and it was actually a gene which was related to the blockage of the immune system. Now, it was sort of course, immediately translated into possibility of treatment of the blockage of the immune system into the cancer. And currently, this is a very big therapy which is being used globally in the cancer treatment. There is a lot of examples where the biology and the living sciences, life sciences world is actually combined with the technology. I think this is something which is happening also at the university. Currently, there is an interesting study which is combining the biomechanics and the robot control. Again, biology, living world, and aspects of application engineering. This is a study and project which is looking into the gecko and the way how the grip is developed to actually develop a new composite materials. And just to be up to date, a grant which was given in 1996 to look into the evolution and immune system of marine sponges led to the development of a spray, which is currently being used as a protection to coronavirus. Let me conclude with what I would call apropos. This is mainly for the students who are hopefully listening and part of this discussion. If you sit back and think about the Earth's history, we are currently in an age which is first time dominated by the single species called us, Homo sapiens. This is why we call the current era as a unique era. It has been labeled as the Anthropocene. Anthropocene, humans being one of the important powers in the whole system. So what are the consequences for us as the academia, science, research, and can we manage this Anthropocene situation? Now, sometimes it looks like we can't, right? This is a cartoon which was published around publication of one of the environmental reports. So we seem to be digging our own hole. So we are sometimes not that much sapiens as homos. However, what I think is important, and certainly when it comes to the Science Without Borders framing, we need to start with a vision. We need to start with a star at the horizon. And I think this way how Seneca already for BC put it is very nice and very, very telling. If one doesn't know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable. We need to know which direction we want to go. Now, of course, there were many visions in the history which changed the world. The Renaissance vision, the Sir Isaac Newton, which led to a Philosopher Naturalis Principia, which of course has been governing our scientific, physical, if you like, thinking until a theory of relativity for hundreds of years. Then, I believe that in the current situation where we all are, because of the Anthropocene, we need Anthropocene vision which will be clearly transdisciplinary, which will be reaching out to the combination of scientists, reaching out to combination of the physical, biological, life, and social sciences. And I think it needs also vision. And maybe some of you, students sitting there across India, listening to this, would find your picture there. It should come, I think, from you. It should come from the generation which has the courage to step into this ring of new combinatorics and actually to produce something which I would call terrestris rationis principum. Now, what is the essence how to do that? Again, I'm going to use a quotation here from Jacob Bronowski. Again, it goes to students, to all of you there, who said, it is important that students bring a certain ragamuffin, barefoot irreverence to their studies. They are not there to worship what is known, but to question it. I mean, this is also where the generational divide comes, right? So my final slide is to encourage you to be rebels, to let your ideas flourish, not to be afraid to step into the ring, which may be uncertain. And I think that our generation, including your Vice Chancellor, my good friend, myself, and all this program I was mentioning, would support you because we believe very much in this mission of the borderless international scientific collaboration. Let me conclude by thanking to all of you for your attention, for your interest. I also would like to give credits to my all former colleagues at IASA and to my future colleagues at HPSPO. And of course, thank you again. Thank you to Vice Chancellor Prabhat Ranjan and to the Leadership University for having me for this very important day. And I wish you all the success, many of these anniversary days to come. And I think the success you are already heading for is clear, and this will only grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much for a wonderful talk. Many of the points that you made resonate with what we are trying to do in the university. One, that we are trying to break the interdisciplinary barriers. In fact, what I've done is that the faculty members do not belong to any particular discipline. They belong to university. They can go teach courses across the disciplines. I have mixed faculty members sitting in spaces so that different faculty or different disciplines are sitting together. Otherwise, they all go to lunch together and they talk to each other only. So I've mixed them up and allotted faculty cabins in a mixed way. In fact, yesterday only I gave a talk to all the faculty members and the research scholars on various interdisciplinary themes that I have personally worked upon and that's likely to be coming up. And actually, three things we are focusing on this pointed out in your slides. One is that we are focusing on education, second is health, and third is energy. All three are important part. And as you rightly showed that, and I was aware of this when the IASA presentation, the education plays a very important role in population control. So thank you again. And let's see if there are some questions that audience may have. Any questions from audience? There are a lot of wishes from various.
Which is, I think, deserved.
But we would be looking forward to your joining on 1st July. And then in the meantime, we'll be preparing on some of the possible collaborations. Personally, as I mentioned, that I'm involved with chronic health problems. And I'm very happy that I'm not coming from medical science. But a lot of medical professionals are part of our group who have joined together to try to solve chronic health problems. It affects huge population of the earth, actually. And most of these, the modern medical science does not have solutions. So all of us keep suffering, including myself. So I personally saw many of the problems first when I was faced with these problems. And then I felt that I must take it forward to others. And so we actually combined together modern science and ancient traditional knowledge, which actually, in fact, one of the book I wrote, I went through was written by a German person, Andreas Moritz, who had come to India to learn Ayurveda to solve his own health problem. And then he took that knowledge, in fact, went from Germany to US. He worked there for around 40, 45 years, wrote many books, brought in Western, make it easy for Western audience. And I read that book. So that knowledge went out of India to Germany, to US, and then I used that. And that helped in many, many of health problems, not only of my own, but hundreds of other people. So this is all actually, as you have been rightly saying, science without borders. And I hope that we'll be able to work together and solve many of these problems that world is facing today. Thank you again. I think we're not seeing any comments so far, so maybe we can go to the next part of the event.
Thank you so much again to all of you. And again, I will be very much hoping through these programs to collaborate. And I hope to visit you soon when I will be in India, probably next year, because this year is still probably not possible to travel. But let's sort of plan collaboration. Thank you so much.
Sure. We'll welcome you in Pune. I think you have visited Pune a few times earlier also. And so next week we'll welcome you. We'll host you in our campus. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us short notice.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure your words have stimulated each one of us to embrace every opportunity that knocks on our door. You are an inspiration and live example of how excellence can be defined. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Madhvi Deshpande. Dr. Madhvi Deshpande is presently Director for School of Commerce and Management. Dr. Madhvi holds a PhD in Talent Management and shows immense interest in communication, workplace behavior, organization development, and life skills. She has authored numerous articles and presented various paper presentations. Now, I would like to request Dr. Madhvi to convey vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Selection, for giving me the chance. Honorable Professor Pavel, our Chief Guest and Keynote Speaker, Honorable Vice Chancellor of DY Patil International University, Professor Prabhat Ranjan, my colleagues and students. There are some opportunities in life, where they give us the pointers to think about what could be the next direction of our actions, and I feel this is one of those opportunities, where we listen to wisdom, and that sets the future course of our thoughts, and then of course our actions, and that shapes our lives. So it's my privilege actually to propose a vote of thanks at the glorious conclusion of this interaction, but also the beginning of a very bright future that can be seen over here. Thank you, Dr. Pavel. Such a humble and wisdom-filled interaction that we've had, and the theme of science beyond borders is actually more relevant today. At a gist, we could say that wellness, the balance, and collaboration within spirit as well as science is a way of life to lead. It is no longer the era where we actually dwell with what our achievements are, but what the world is to come, and how it really changes our perspectives is very important. We look forward to see you on our campus, sir, and to interact with you and learn from you. Earth is round, and every corner of this earth is very unique, and every other corner of the earth, is very willing to get to know this uniqueness and make use of the best of opportunities, the best of knowledge, the best of spirits that we have over here. Thank you, Dr. Ranjan, for arranging such a wonderful interaction for us. You've always been inspirational. You've inspired us with your words. You've inspired us more with your actions. And this university is very, very young right now. But I'm very sure as a part of this university that, yeah, we would probably, come to be a very important contributor to conserving and enhancing the lives of inhabitants of this earth. Thank you very much, sir, for this. With a promise from all of us at DYPIU that all our well wishes and our contribution and efforts would go to the direction that we've set today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, this is the end of the event.
Thank you.